Imagine holding in your hand an ordinary copper penny, something you might drop into a tip jar, leave forgotten in the couch cushions, or toss onto the counter without a second thought. Now imagine that same penny being worth not just a few cents, not just a few $100s, but hundreds of thousands, even millions. It sounds like the setup for a tall tale, doesn't it? But this is no myth. This is the real story of the 1969's Lincoln cent with the double die obverse. One of the most mysterious and valuable modern coins in American history. A coin so rare, so unexpected, that a handful of lucky people have turned what looked like pocket change into life-changing wealth. The shocking truth is this. One of these coins has sold for an eye-watering $832,000. That's nearly $1 million for a single penny. Let that sink in for a moment. A penny that most of us wouldn't bend down to pick up off the sidewalk could instead unlock financial freedom, pay off mortgages, or even fund retirement. And the kicker? Many of these coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for sharp-eyed treasure hunters to find them. Could one be sitting quietly in your own collection, or jingling around in an old jar of change right now? To understand the full scope of this treasure hunt, we need to go back to 1969, a year that was already charged with history. The United States was landing astronauts on the moon. Woodstock was shaking the foundations of music and culture. But in the dimly lit corners of the U.S. Mint, something else was happening. Something that would send ripples through the world of numismatics for decades to come. A printing error, a doubling in the die used to strike the Lincoln cent, created a tiny handful of coins with lettering so sharply doubled that the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" almost appear to be shadowed. Unlike other minor errors, this doubling was dramatic, unmistakable, and incredibly rare. And when paired with the small S mint mark from the San Francisco Mint, it gave birth to one of the most valuable pennies in existence. Now, if you're wondering why anyone would pay 6 or 7 figures for a coin you can barely buy a cup of coffee with, the answer lies in scarcity and demand. Only a very small number of these double die pennies have ever surfaced, with estimates suggesting perhaps fewer than 100 known examples. In the world of collecting, rarity is the golden ticket. Pair rarity with historical significance, and you've got a recipe for skyrocketing value. That's why collectors, investors, and museums compete fiercely to get their hands on one of these elusive 1969's double die cents. But here's where things get even more suspenseful. When these coins first started appearing in the late 1960s and early 1970s, they didn't trigger excitement. They triggered suspicion. The doubling was so dramatic that officials at the Treasury and the Secret Service initially believed the coins were counterfeit. Imagine that, finding a penny worth a fortune only to have the government confiscate it because they thought it was fake. For months, confusion reigned. Some of the earliest finds were seized, collectors were left in limbo, and rumors spread through the numismatic community like wildfire. It wasn't until the coins were carefully studied and authenticated that the government admitted the truth. These weren't counterfeits at all. They were genuine mint errors, the rarest of the rare. Born not out of deception, but out of a freak accident in the striking process. This revelation turned everything on its head. What was once seen as suspicious suddenly became a holy grail for collectors. And the values began climbing slowly at first, then explosively. By the 1980s, these coins were already fetching tens of thousands of dollars. By the 2000s, six-figure sales were being reported. And in recent years, that record-breaking sale of $832,000 cemented the coin's status as a modern legend. Think about it. A single copper coin, smaller than a postage stamp, commanding nearly $1 million at auction. The kind of story that makes you want to run to your coin jar immediately. But before you do, let's pause for a moment. Not every 1969 penny with an S, mint mark, is worth a fortune. And here's where the fear creeps in. Countless people have mistakenly thought they struck it rich, only to learn they had an ordinary cent. There are also countless fakes floating around, created by unscrupulous sellers hoping to prey on desperate treasure hunters. The difference between a life-changing discovery and a worthless coin lies in the details. Authentic 1969's double die cents show very clear, bold doubling, especially in the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." On fakes or less valuable varieties, the doubling is faint, distorted, or in the wrong areas. One wrong assumption, one overlooked detail, and you could walk away empty-handed. So here's the million-dollar question. How do you know if you've got the real thing? The safest way is to have any suspicious coin authenticated by a reputable grading service. Like PCGs or NGC, these organizations specialize in confirming authenticity, grading condition, and protecting your investment. And condition matters enormously. The same rare penny in worn condition might be worth thousands, while one in pristine mint-state condition can climb into the hundreds of thousands or beyond. That's why collectors obsess over details like scratches, luster, and sharpness of strike. Every tiny imperfection can shave tens of thousands off the value. Picture this. A man in California discovers an old coffee can filled with pennies his father had saved decades earlier. He sifts through them absent-mindedly, not expecting much. And then, suddenly, his heart skips. The letters on Liberty look doubled. The motto "In God We Trust" seems to have a shadow. Could it be? He sends the coin off for authentication, waits anxiously. And then the news arrives. Genuine 1969's double die obverse. Months later, at auction, sells for over $300,000. That's not just a nice surprise. That's a life-altering windfall. And it could happen to anyone. Now ask yourself, how many pennies have you passed through your hands in your lifetime? Hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. How many have you tossed aside without looking? How many sit in dusty jars, old piggy banks, or forgotten drawers? The thought is enough to make you want to search through every last coin you've ever owned. Because unlike the lottery, this treasure hunt isn't pure chance. It's about awareness. It's about being one of the few who actually knows what to look for And here's the twist that should make you sit up straight. Experts believe more of these coins remain undiscovered. Not all of them were found in the 1970s. Some were tucked away in circulation, hiding among billions of ordinary cents. That means the story isn't over. The next legendary discovery could happen tomorrow in a gas station till, a garage sale change jar, or the loose coins you just emptied from your pocket. Imagine the rush of spotting those doubled letters and realizing, in an instant, that your financial future just changed forever. Of course, with stakes this high, urgency is everything. Every year, more coins are lost, damaged, or destroyed as they pass unnoticed through circulation. Some are even melted down. That means every day you delay searching through your coins, the odds grow slimmer. On the other hand, every day you do take action, every jar you sort, every coin you inspect, you increase the chance of becoming part of this incredible story. Isn't that worth a few minutes of your time? So let's recap. The 1969's double-die Lincoln cent, one of the rarest modern coins in American history. Fewer than 100 known examples. A history shrouded in government suspicion and dramatic discovery. A track record of sales that have reached as high as $832,000. And the possibility, however slim, that one could still be hiding in your very own home. It's a story that blends history, mystery, and fortune into one small copper disc. Now, here's the question that lingers in the air. Are you going to be the one who takes this knowledge and acts on it? Or will you let another day pass, another opportunity slip through your fingers while these rare treasures remain hidden? Because the truth is, somebody will find the next one. Somebody will cash in. The only question is, will it be you? The time to act is now. Dig through your change. Check those jars. Revisit your old coin collections, or your parents', or even your grandparents'. Look closely, look carefully, and don't dismiss a penny as just a penny. The wealth of a lifetime could be staring back at you in plain copper brown. Because sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest fortunes. And the next time you hear a story about a penny selling for nearly $1 million, wouldn't you rather be the one telling it? Let's start by setting the scene. The year is 1991. Gasoline costs barely over $1 a gallon. People are glued to their bulky televisions watching the Gulf War unfold. Jesus. And Lincoln cents are jingling in every American's pocket. Nothing unusual, right? But hidden among billions of these copper-plated zinc coins, struck by the U.S. Mint, a few emerged without something vital, the tiny mint mark that tells you where the coin was produced. A missing mint mark might sound trivial, almost like a printing error on a cereal box. But in the world of numismatics, the serious study and collection of coins, this seemingly small omission is a lightning bolt of rarity and value. Think about it for a moment. The mint mark is like a fingerprint. It's the tiny symbol, usually a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, that identifies a coin's birthplace. In 1991, the majority of Lincoln cents carried that identifying mark. But then, a small batch slipped through the presses without it. Imagine billions of pennies rolling off the line and hidden among them. A secret handful that didn't carry their identity badge. No mint mark. Anonymous, forgotten, and now potentially worth hundreds of thousands, even millions, to the right buyer. Here's the kicker. Most people don't even know what to look for. Right now, there are probably folks watching this who have 1991 pennies rattling around in a coffee can, oblivious to the fortune hidden inside. And here's where the story takes a turn, because this isn't the first time a missing mint mark has made headlines. In 1982, a no-mint Mark Roosevelt dime sparked collector frenzy, with specimens selling for jaw-dropping sums. In 1990, another Lincoln cent without its mint mark created waves in the numismatic market. So when 1991 rolled around, collectors were on high alert. And sure enough, the no-mint mark penny became a modern legend. But let's not sugarcoat this. The road to discovering and selling one of these coins isn't simple. Most 1991 pennies are just that, pennies, worth 1 cent. The challenge and the thrill lies in finding the needle in the haystack. The pennies without a mint mark are rare, but even rarer are those that have survived the past 3 decades in pristine, uncirculated condition. Because here's a sobering truth. Every time someone drops one of these coins in a vending machine, scratches it across a countertop, or lets it sit in a dusty jar, its value plummets. Only the sharpest, cleanest examples can command life-changing sums. Now, let's dive into the heart of the mystery. Why exactly do these coins carry such astronomical value? It's not just about the missing mint mark. It's about scarcity, demand, and the psychology of collecting. In economics, we call this the scarcity premium. When something exists in extremely limited supply, and when collectors all over the world want it, the price skyrockets. Add to that the historical intrigue of a government mint error, and you've got the perfect storm. For serious coin collectors, owning a 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln cent isn't just about bragging rights. It's about holding a piece of numismatic history. A coin so rare that it transforms from pocket change into a coveted treasure. And here's the part that might just give you goosebumps. Auction records tell the story better than words. Some specimens of these rare 1991 no-mint mark pennies have fetched over $80,000. Others, reports suggest a staggering $827,000 in private sales when preserved in the highest possible grade, certified by top-tier grading companies. Just think about that for a second. A coin that costs 1 cent to spend, turning into nearly $1 million asset. Wouldn't you agree that's the kind of miracle story that makes you want to run straight to your change jar and start searching? But wait, before you grab your magnifying glass and start tearing apart the couch cushions, let's pause for a moment. Because here's the twist. Not every missing mint mark is created equal. Some coins may appear to lack a mint mark because of wear and tear. Others may have been altered by mischievous hands after leaving the mint. And guess what? The market doesn't reward fakes. In fact, collectors are ruthless about authenticity. That's why professional grading is crucial. If you truly believe you've found one of these elusive 1991 no mint mark cents, the next step is to have it authenticated and graded by respected authorities like PCGs or NGC. Without that certification, you might as well be holding just another penny. Let's step back and think about what this means for you. You, right now, might have an overlooked fortune within arm's reach. Your childhood coin collection, your grandfather's old cigar box filled with change, even the tip jar at your favorite diner. But how many people will actually take the time to look? That's the million-dollar question, literally. Because while most people will dismiss a penny as worthless, the patient, the curious, the ones who know what to search for, they're the ones who uncover the jackpots. Isn't it ironic that in a world obsessed with dollars, stocks, and digital assets, it's the lowly penny that still manages to outwit us all? Now, let's inject a little humor here, because this subject can get heavy. Imagine trying to explain to your spouse that the reason you're crouched on the living room floor surrounded by pennies is because you're on a treasure hunt. Honey, I swear, one of these is worth a mansion. It sounds crazy until you realize that people really are cashing in life-changing checks because they spotted what everyone else overlooked. So laugh if you want, but then go check your change. Here's another layer of suspense. The window of opportunity might not last forever. As more people become aware of these rare 1991 no mint mark cents, the easier it becomes for existing owners to identify and protect them. That means fewer raw examples floating in circulation and fewer chances for a lucky find. The clock is ticking, and every day that passes, another potential fortune could vanish into a collection vault, never to be seen again. Do you really want to be the person who hears this story 10 years from now and says, "If only I had looked back then"? And this brings us to the climax of our story. Picture it. You, after hours of searching, spotting a 1991 Lincoln penny that looks different. No mint mark, clean, sharp details. Your heart races. Is it real? Could it be the one? You send it off for grading, waiting weeks that feel like years. And then the verdict arrives. It's authentic. It's rare. And suddenly, that little copper coin transforms into a 6-figure, maybe even 7-figure treasure. You've gone from spare change to financial game changer. That's the thrill. That's the possibility. That's why you should never underestimate the power of the penny. So here's the takeaway. The 1991 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin isn't just a numismatic curiosity. It's a symbol of hidden wealth, of the fortunes that slip past us in plain sight, waiting for the few who dare to notice. It reminds us that even in the most ordinary places, a pocket, a drawer, a handful of change, extraordinary opportunities are hiding. The question is, will you be the one to find it? Because somewhere out there, maybe in your home right now, maybe in the very next penny you receive as change, could be the coin that changes everything. A coin that proves once and for all that in the world of money, sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest rewards. So don't wait. Don't dismiss, don't assume. Look closer, search harder, and maybe, just maybe, your 1 cent could turn into $827,000. Or even more. After all, the only thing standing between you and a millionaire's fortune might just be a penny. And isn't that worth checking? They say money can't buy happiness. But what if a single penny, hiding in your pocket change, could buy you a mansion, a yacht, and the freedom to never work another day in your life? Imagine reaching into a coffee can of old coins, the same way millions of Americans do when paying for gas or groceries, and pulling out a single copper-colored cent that could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sounds like something out of a movie, doesn't it? But it's not a myth. It's very real. And tonight, we're diving into one of the most elusive treasures in American numismatics. The 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln cent. A tiny coin, 1 cent in face value, that has been reported to sell for as high as $822,000. Yes, you heard that right. A penny less than the gum stuck to your shoe worth more than most people's homes. The question is, how could such an ordinary coin be worth a fortune? And more importantly, how do you know if you have one? Because right now, sitting in a jar, a drawer, or maybe even in your car's cuff holder, there could be a penny that changes your life forever. So lean in close, because by the time we finish, you'll never look at your change the same way again. To understand the power of the 2000 no-mint mark penny, we have to go back to the beginning. The Lincoln cent has been in circulation for over a century. It's the most familiar coin in America, minted by the billions, practically invisible in our daily lives. Most of us walk past them on the sidewalk without a second glance. But here's the twist: when billions are struck, errors happen. Sometimes tiny, almost invisible flaws slip through the mint's unforgiving quality control, creating coins so rare that collectors lose their minds over them. And when demand collides with scarcity, the value explodes. Now, you might be thinking, all right, but this is the year 2000 we're talking about. Weren't all the modern pennies mass-produced, cheap, and basically worthless? That's what makes this story so fascinating. Because the 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is the coin that shouldn't exist. Yet, it does. Normally, pennies struck in Philadelphia after 1980 carry no mint mark at all. That's the standard. So at first glance, nothing about a missing mark seems unusual. But in the world of rare coins, context is everything. And here's the kicker. Certain 2000 Lincoln cents were struck under unusual conditions, with error characteristics that made them unique. For collectors, those details became gold. And once word spread about verified sales reaching into the hundreds of thousands, the hunt began. Picture it. Someone finds an unassuming penny, maybe stuck to the bottom of a drawer, maybe handed back as change at a gas station. They flip it under the light, and suddenly, the details don't line up with what's expected. Maybe the strike is off-center. Maybe the AM in America on the reverse is spaced differently, famous variety called the wide M. Or maybe the surfaces shimmer, with the flawless perfection of a coin. Graded mint state 70 by the elite services like PCGs or NGC, and that's when jaws hit the floor. Because collectors don't just want these rarities, they fight for them. Auctions become battlegrounds. Prices soar, and what was once worth 1 cent is suddenly worth more than your 401k. Now let me hit you with the revelation that stops even seasoned coin hunters in their tracks. In recent years, one of these elusive 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln cents, graded at the highest possible level, was reported to sell for a staggering $822,000. Think about that. A penny worth more than a Lamborghini. A coin you could mistake for pocket change, but in pristine, perfect condition. It's transformed into a numismatic unicorn. These aren't casual finds. They're the holy grail for coin collectors, and they ignite a frenzy every time one hits the market. So how do you know if you might be sitting on one? First, you need to understand what makes the year 2000 special. That was a transitional period in the mint's production. Philadelphia was striking enormous quantities, but it was also a year where several unusual die varieties slipped through. The most famous is the wide M variety. Normally, on Lincoln cents of this era, the A and the M in America on the reverse are nearly touching. But in the wide M, they're noticeably separated. It's a tiny detail, invisible unless you're looking closely, but collectors know it's the key. Combine that with an impeccable grade, free of scratches, nicks, or tarnish, and suddenly you have a coin that could send your kids to college. But let me pause here and ask you, how many pennies have you thrown away? How many jars of change have you ignored in the back of your closet? If you're like most Americans, the answer is countless. And that's the tragedy. People are literally sitting on small fortunes without ever knowing it. It's like having a lottery ticket and never bothering to scratch it. And that, my friends, is why this story matters. Because while most people dismiss the penny as worthless, a handful of people, sharp-eyed, patient, lucky are cashing in on life-changing money. Of course, you might be skeptical. You might be thinking, surely, if these pennies are out there, someone would have found them all by now. But here's where the suspense builds. Coins don't vanish. They circulate for decades, passing through hands, getting stuck in piggy banks, and buried in coin rolls. They sit forgotten in dresser drawers, quietly waiting to be rediscovered. And remember, only a tiny fraction of people actually bother to look, which means opportunity is still out there, hiding in plain sight. Every trip to the bank, every coin roll you crack open, every handful of change from a vending machine, it's a chance. The real question is, are you paying attention? And let's talk about condition for a moment, because this is where the million-dollar dreams are made or broken. Coins graded by professional services are placed under microscopes, scrutinized with merciless precision. One tiny scratch, one little fingerprint, and the grade plummets. That's why a circulated 2000 wide AM might fetch hundreds, even thousands. But in top condition, the price skyrockets to staggering levels. The difference between a penny worth $20 and a penny worth hundreds of thousands. Sometimes it's nothing more than how carefully it was handled after leaving the mint. Imagine the irony. Someone spends a penny on a stick of gum in 2000, and 2 decades later, that same coin would have been worth more than the car they drove to the store. Now, here's a curveball. What if I told you that millions of Americans have already unknowingly handled one of these rare coins? That's right. The odds are slim, but not impossible. And think about how many banks are still processing rolls of pennies. Some collectors buy boxes of coins, searching roll after roll, hour after hour, hoping to stumble upon one of these elusive treasures. It's tedious, sure, but the payoff? One discovery could rewrite your entire financial future. And let's be brutally honest. In an economy where people are worried about inflation, rising costs, and retirement security, the idea that a penny could transform your wealth isn't just exciting, it's downright electrifying. It's hope disguised as copper. And in times like these, who doesn't need a little hope? So where does that leave us? Here's the takeaway. The 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is more than just a coin. It's a reminder that hidden fortunes exist all around us, invisible to the untrained eye. And it's also a challenge, a dare, really, because the opportunity is still out there, waiting for those who care enough to look. You don't need a metal detector, a treasure map, or a millionaire's bankroll to start hunting. All you need is curiosity, a magnifying glass, and the willingness to treat every penny as a potential jackpot. As we close, let me leave you with this thought. Right now, somewhere in America, someone is tossing a penny into a tip jar, unaware that it could be worth more than their car. Someone is sweeping change off a kitchen counter and dropping it into a dusty jar, not realizing that in that moment, they've let a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity slip through their fingers. Will that be you? Or will you be the one who pauses, who looks closer, who discovers what everyone else ignored? The 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln cent has already made headlines, already changed lives, already proven that miracles can come in copper. The only question left is, whose story will be next? Because the next life-changing penny could be in your pocket right now. And the clock is ticking. Have you ever held a penny in your hand and thought, what if this tiny copper coin was worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your entire retirement fund? Imagine standing at a checkout line, fishing through your change, and unknowingly tossing away a fortune disguised as pocket change. It sounds like a myth, like the kind of story your grandfather might tell while jingling coins in his pocket. But today, you're about to discover the shocking truth behind one of the most elusive and valuable modern coins ever minted in the United States. The 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin. This is not just another story about an old coin with a quirky mistake. This is a story about how a single penny, one most people wouldn't look at twice, has been reported to sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars, even approaching $1 million. And yes, it could still be sitting quietly in circulation right now, waiting for someone like you to recognize it. But before we dive into the details, let me ask you something. How many pennies have you ignored in your lifetime? How many times have you walked past one on the sidewalk, thinking it wasn't worth bending down? Well, after you hear this, you might never overlook a penny again. Let's rewind for a moment. The year is 2001. America is on the edge of change. But in the world of coin collecting, the Lincoln cent remains a steady fixture. Copper-plated zinc coins, mass-produced in the billions. On the surface, nothing special. Every cent minted in Philadelphia that year carried no mint mark, as is tradition. While Denver coins bore a bold D, collectors at the time didn't suspect that anything unusual was happening, yet hidden in the shadows of ordinary production runs, something extraordinary emerged. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. A few of these 2001 Lincoln cents began surfacing with peculiar characteristics. No mint mark where one should be. Strange anomalies in strike. Coins that looked different, felt different, and carried a mystery collectors couldn't ignore. What followed was a frenzy whispers in the numismatic community. Rumors of staggering sales and eventually, eye-popping reports of a single example selling for as much as $815,000 in pristine, top-graded condition. Yes, you heard that right. $815,000 for a penny. That's the price of a luxury home, the kind of number that turns skeptics into believers overnight. And some collectors argue that under the right circumstances, one of these elusive cents surfaces again in flawless condition, so the value could push into the millions. But let's pause here for a second. What exactly makes a penny like this so valuable? It isn't gold, it isn't silver, and it certainly isn't rare because of age. After all, 2001 wasn't that long ago. The answer lies in a perfect storm of rarity, error, and condition. Minting errors, especially those that escape detection and enter circulation, create instant intrigue. Combine that with a modern date that no one expected to harbor such value, and you've got a recipe for collector mania. Think about it. Collectors have scoured rolls of pennies for decades, hunting for double die errors, misstrikes, and missing mint marks. Most of the time, the finds are modest, but occasionally, a lightning strike error appears, the kind that rewrites the record books. That's exactly what happened with the 2001 no mint mark Lincoln cent. And here's D. The kicker: you don't have to be a professional dealer or museum curator to find one. This coin, this potential jackpot, may still be hiding in plain sight. It could be buried in a jar of change on your dresser. It could be rattling around in your car's cup holder. It could be resting at the bottom of a piggy bank that hasn't been cracked open since the early 2000s. So, what should you look for? Here's where things get practical. Start by examining the obverse, the front of the coin. A genuine 2001 Philadelphia penny should show no mint mark under the date. But if you notice any signs of tampering, unusual spacing, or striking anomalies that don't match typical Philadelphia issues, you may be holding something extraordinary. Condition, of course, is king. A coin that has survived decades without scratches, discoloration, or where, especially if graded at the highest levels by professional services like PCGs or NGC, could command prices that make your head spin. Now, you might be wondering, how often does this really happen? Surely it's all hype, right? But consider this. Rare coins have consistently shattered expectations at auctions. Remember the 1943 copper penny? One of the most famous U.S. rarities. One of those sold for over $1.7 million. The 2001 no mint mark Lincoln cent may not have the same decades-old lore, but it has already proven its ability to shock the market with jaw-dropping figures. And here's the part that should make your heart race. Most people are still completely unaware, while collectors are whispering in forums and tracking auction records. The average American has no idea that a penny struck in their own lifetime, in the year of their first cell phone or their first home purchase, could be worth life-changing money. So let me ask you again, when was the last time you really looked at your change? How many pennies have slipped through your hands, unexamined, maybe carrying the weight of a house payment or a college fund? The thought alone is enough to keep you up at night, but before you start tearing through your piggy and appending your coin jars, let's dig deeper. Why do collectors go to such lengths and pay such outrageous sums for coins like this? The answer is partly psychological. Rare coins represent a piece of history, a tangible artifact of human error and chance. Owning one means holding in your hand something that almost shouldn't exist, something that escaped the cold precision of the U.S. Mint and slipped into the chaos of circulation. It's the ultimate treasure hunt, and the thrill of the chase fuels the market. And of course, there's the financial angle. In uncertain times, tangible assets like rare coins are viewed as safe havens. Much like gold or fine art, when a coin's rarity and desirability collide with a wealthy collector's desire, bidding wars erupt and prices soar into the stratosphere. That's why a humble penny can climb into 6, even 7 figures. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Isn't this all just too good to be true? A penny worth millions? Here's the reality check. Yes, coins like this are exceedingly rare. You're not guaranteed to stumble across one in every handful of change. But the fact remains, they exist, they've sold, and unless you're willing to overlook every penny that passes through your hands, you'll never know if you missed your shot at fortune. So here's my challenge to you. Tonight, after this video ends, don't just set aside your change like you usually do. Take a closer look. Line up your 2001 pennies and study them carefully. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. Check the date, the mint mark, or lack thereof, and the overall condition. Because lightning might just strike in your very own coin jar. And remember, in this world of collecting, timing is everything. Prices fluctuate, trends come and go, but when a rare specimen surfaces, the market can ignite overnight. Imagine being the person who uncovers the next $1 million cent, just as collectors are clamoring for one. Imagine the phone calls from auction houses, the headlines in collector journals, the stunned looks from friends and family when you tell them you sold a penny for more than most people earn in a lifetime. It all begins with awareness. With the simple act of looking, most fortunes in coin collecting are lost not because the coins don't exist, but because people fail to recognize them when they're right in front of their eyes. So I'll leave you with this final thought. The next time a penny crosses your path, don't dismiss it as worthless. Don't let habit blind you to possibility. Because history has shown us time and time again that the smallest things can hold the greatest value. That a coin worth 1 cent today could be the ticket to financial freedom tomorrow. The 2001 No Mint Mark. Lincoln Penny is more than just change in your pocket. It's a reminder that treasures still exist in the most ordinary places. And the only question that remains is, will you be the one to find it?